Thanks for joining us. After announcing a new proposed oil pipeline to the West Coast, Alberta is now partnering with Ontario to build a 3,300-kilometre pipeline to refineries in southern Ontario. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith and Ontario Premier Doug Ford announced the plan in Calgary Monday. The pipeline is part of something called the Northern Shield Energy Corridor. The pipeline would begin at Hardisty, Alberta, and travel near Regina and Winnipeg before reaching Sarnia, Ontario. It would begin transporting 500,000 barrels of oil per day, with possible expansion to 800,000 barrels per day. Right now, there is no private partner, and Ford says the Ontario government could be the owner of the pipeline and foot the bill for construction if needed.
I think it's a great investment, no matter if it's the government that will get a good ROI over a certain period of time. I always prefer looking at the private sector investing, and I think it's going to be an incredible project. Folks, this is a historic announcement that no one would ever think in 100 years this would be done, but with a great leadership, Premier Smith, we're able to get this agreement moving forward, and it's going to benefit everyone. It's going to benefit Ontarians, Albertans, and most importantly, everyone from coast to coast to coast.
Ultimately, who pays for them is the people who use them, the shippers. They pay through tolls. And we've already seen that with the Trans Mountain Pipeline. Yeah, the federal government did front the money, but they're now earning $1.2 billion per year to pay it back. And that's why it's a bit of a different type of infrastructure question than whether you're building public infrastructure, because it is a revenue generating business. And so I'm looking forward. I always hope that we can have private partners come forward on this, because that also allows us to have the market discipline. But I'm grateful that Premier Ford is willing to look at all the options.
The Manitoba government has refused to join the initiative because Indigenous groups are not involved from the start, but Ford says they've begun communications with 77 different Indigenous communities. A German company has won the bid to build Canada's next fleet of submarines. Monday in Halifax, Prime Minister Mark Carney announced Germany's TKMS as the winner of the submarine contract. TKMS beat out South Korea's Hanwha Oceans.
We will now enter into negotiations to procure up to 12 submarines. And that process is commercially sensitive. And as always, we will not negotiate in public so as to maintain the strongest possible position for Canada. What I can confirm today is that we have already provisioned for the costs of purchasing these submarines in our fiscal framework. It's already in the budget. And I can confirm that this procurement will be the largest in Canadian history, and that by design, and Doug Guzman just alluded to this very lightly, by design, this process will have far and away the greatest economic impact of any defence investment right across Canada.
Canada will soon have to retire its 4 Victoria-class submarines. Carney says the plan is for Canada to be in possession of 4 of these new German-built submarines by 2034. There's been more bloodshed this morning in Ukraine. At least 21 people have been killed after Russia unleashed waves of missiles and drones. 15 of the 21 victims were killed in the capital of Kyiv.
Як бахне, почав дом валитися, оце все падать, усе. Почала вода бігти, дим. Нас ДСНС виводили усіх людей. І воно потім повторно знову бахнуло. І оце 2 години перші, а в другій тоді пізніше. Ну, він не пізніше, минут 5. І знову повторно.
Authorities say all the ballistic missiles launched by Russia struck their targets, underscoring Kyiv's need for more U.S.-made Patriot interceptor missiles. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will likely reiterate this at the NATO summit in Turkey this week. The separatist group Stay Free Alberta is happy with the news today that Elections Alberta will begin verifying signatures on its petition. Stay Free Alberta claims to have gathered 302,000 signatures, far more than the nearly 178,000 needed to force the province to take action. The verification is scheduled to be completed on July 27th. The petition was submitted in early May, but just 2 weeks later, a judge quashed it after ruling the petition was out of align with provincial laws and that First Nations needed to be consulted. But last week, Stay Free Alberta earned a partial win in court when another judge ruled the signature verification process should take place while the original ruling is appealed. Premier Danielle Smith has said that since the appeal process is expected to take months, if not longer, it's not possible to have a binding vote on separation this fall. Smith has called referendum for October 19th, when Albertans will be asked if they want to remain in Canada or start the process of having a second binding vote on separating. Some residents in the central Alberta town of Olds are voicing their concerns over plans for a new artificial intelligence data center northeast of the town. While the town council says the center will boost its tax revenue and local employment, residents worry about pollution, noise, home values, and safety. We get more from Lauren Krugel with the Canadian Press.
A company called Synapse Real Estate Corporation has bought some land in the northeast area of town. It's proposing a 10-building complex powered by a total of 1.4 gigawatts of generating capacity, about what the city of Edmonton uses. People are fired up about it. Many residents have raised concern about pollution, noise, emergency response, and property values.
It's an enormous threat. It's actually, this is my area of expertise, and I go to bed terrified at night thinking about what this could mean. And if this thing is approved, I will be leaving. This community is going to see people fleeing because you will not be able to live in this community. It's just going to destroy the whole nature of this community, what it looks like, what it feels like.
I would be concerned if people weren't concerned, right? It's a smaller community. For me, it's critical that we have a beautiful, healthy community where business wants to come. If we become a community that doesn't meet those markers, investors don't want to come. People leave. So for me, and I know also for council who all live here, want to ensure that we have a beautiful community, and that's how those decisions are going to be made.
The municipal government is keen on the jobs the centre would bring. 1,000 once it's up and running, according to Synapse's projections.
The jobs are the biggest thing, and I think it's the economic multiplier effect that will come from those jobs. So it's estimated like a 6-to-1 ratio. For every job created, there will be 6 more jobs that come from that.
Let's start with the 7,000 indirect jobs. Instead of a 7-to-1 ratio, which they're predicting, 6 to 7-to-1 ratio for the direct jobs, it's probably closer to 1-to-1 according to industry experts, rather than the data center itself telling you this. You need to actually go and verify or validate. Majority of those jobs will probably be in the gas plant. They will not be in the data center. So they will not be IT jobs. They'll be maintenance, janitorial, security.
It's both the most singular unifying thing that could ever happen, and it has created bonds and friendship and support and community unlike anything I've ever seen anywhere I've ever lived. It has also divided at an exponential rate. It's presenting to a lot of people who aren't immersed in this process that we are rejecting progress. We are rejecting tax revenue. We are trying to stop the town from thriving and from having a good economy. That's not what we're doing. We're here trying to say our home should not be sacrificed for the sake of progress. I'm confident it will not be going ahead, but if some kind of delusion pushed it through against all logic, critical thinking, and reason, we'd sell our home.
Members with the federal government were in Lethbridge Monday to announce they're contributing more than $7 million to building an improved seniors housing within our city. The parliamentary secretary to the Minister of Transport, Mike Kellaway, announced that $2.2 million will go towards the conversion of 50 units of affordable rental units for seniors at the Edwards, a former seniors retirement community. Additionally, $4.8 million will go towards repairs and renewals of 480 units within the Green Acres Foundation.
Our Prime Minister, Mark Carney, and the Cabinet have been pretty clear that we need shovel-ready projects that are focused on housing, not in the future, but now. And in the speech, I do cover it, but what we're seeing, and I can tell you firsthand, with projects that I'm intimately involved in, we're seeing quick turnaround. we're seeing quicker approval processes that are in place while still, maintaining due diligence on quality control. Projects like this are possible thanks to the Affordable Housing Program. Now, this program provides low-interest loans and contributions to help nonprofits build much-needed homes that can be rented at below-market rates. Now, it shows what's possible when partners work together, developers, nonprofits, and government at all levels. And in the short time that I've been here in Lethbridge, I think what you have an abundance of is collaboration and cooperation with all different sectors. And folks, that's something special, and it's happening here in Lethbridge.
Callaway also met with the Lethbridge Chamber of Commerce members on Monday afternoon to discuss trade and transportation in the region. Callaway has made the trip to Lethbridge on behalf of the Federal Minister for Housing and Infrastructure, Gregor Robertson. Earlier this afternoon, fire crews attended an industrial fire at a gravel and asphalt plant in the River Valley. While no official information has come out revealing the cause or effects of the blaze, workers with Tolastrup Construction say they evacuated the worksite just after 11 a.m. with all workers safe and accounted for. The fire was seemingly isolated with no indication that it continued to spread outside the source. Emergency workers remained on scene for much of the day as they worked to put out the flames and expect to release more information once crews wrap up. While you're making your summer vacation plans, Canadian Blood Services is reminding everyone that the need for blood and plasma donations never takes a holiday. With only about 2% of eligible Canadians donating, demand continues to grow. Lisa Castro, Community Development Manager with Canadian Blood Services in Lethbridge, says the organization wants to ensure patients have access to the blood and plasma products they rely on every day.
With a growing demand of over 10% of blood and 50% for plasma, we really need more people to step up and experience what you get when you give back. Blood and plasma donation are one of the most powerful expressions of that. Nearly half of Canadians believe that donating blood is a really Canadian act of generosity, but we only see 2% of the population that are eligible donating. One of the main reasons why is that we are faced with an aging population, and there's so many more advances in clinical care that we just can't keep up with that demand, and we need more people to help patients' needs. The difference with the need for blood versus plasma, the need for plasma is far greater because when you look at whole blood, so for example, for someone going through perhaps a day procedure or heart surgery, it can mean that patient is supported by 5 donors that donate whole blood. Whereas if we have someone, a patient undergoing immune deficiency treatment for a year, it means 150 or more donors donating plasma to support that one patient.
And I try to come at least every week. So basically between 25 to today's 153 would be all plasma. My best experience, actually, I was donating plasma one day, and this lady who, if you have the same expression, don't know from Adam, came up to me and shook my hand and said, "Thank you." And I was a little like, what do I say? And she said, "Well, because of you and everybody here donating plasma, it's helping my life, making my life better. So thank you so much." And it really made a lot of difference to hear that, because it kind of like put a face to what we do every time we come here.
It just feels nice to like contribute, knowing that like my plasma could be like making medication or going to somebody directly. I think like if you have the time, it doesn't take long, so just go and donate.
Castro says men can donate whole blood every 56 days, while women are eligible to donate every 84 days. Plasma donors, however, can donate as often as once a week. She adds that Canadian Blood Services in Lethbridge has thousands of donor appointments to fill throughout the summer. Travelers into Kananaskis country west of Calgary are still dealing with travel disruptions. Highway 40 at the Evan Thomas Bridge south of Kananaskis Village partially reopened over the weekend. This came after a section of the highway closed following a mudslide brought on by heavy rain in the area. 511 Alberta says motorists can access the area with one-lane alternating traffic controlled by temporary traffic lights. They say traffic delays should be expected, so please drive with caution. Further north, the road is still broken up on Mount Allen Drive in both directions. A ranching family's love for grasslands is helping protect clean water and support land-based livelihoods within a growing network of conservation land near Waterton Lakes National Park in southern Alberta. With their generosity and care, the Southwell family has partnered with the Nature Conservancy of Canada to help conserve their land. The 40-hectare property consisting of native fescue prairie is one of the most endangered ecosystems in Canada. Jeremy Hogan with the NCC explains why this partnership is so important.
Grasslands are the most endangered ecosystem in Canada, so there's a lot of species at risk and a lot of significant plants and animals that thrive in these places. So any opportunity we have to conserve what remains is important. It also provides a lot of benefit for all of us, the local community. There's more than 200,000 people who rely on the water that comes out of this area. The grasslands surrounding the Oldman River keep that water in high quality and available during the later season. It also stops things like flood risk from happening in this time of year.
The Southwell family bought the land in 2018 to live on seasonally and graze their cattle and horses. Since then, they've developed a deep appreciation for the countryside's natural beauty and its importance to wildlife.
Sean Haney here with RealAgriculture.com. Questions have been mounting over the future of the Canadian Western Agribition following the massive sale of Regina's Real District buildings to the Brandt Group of companies. With local ag organizations handed eviction notices last month, the livestock sector has been holding its breath over what this means for our premier fall show in November. Now, we have some clarity finally. Agribition CEO Sean Kindup confirms the 55th annual event will go ahead this November, but it's going to look different. Brandt has committed $8.5 million to construct a brand new livestock building on a razor-thin timeline, aiming to have it completed before the show kicks off in the fall. While the tight construction schedule leaves zero room for error, leadership is focused on ensuring the new footprint elevates the exhibitor experience rather than just replacing old barns. Agribition has called Regina home for over 5 decades. With the current lease expiring next year, this sudden structural shuffle underscores just how quickly the landscape of our heritage events can shift. For Bridge City News, I'm Sean Haney with RealAgriculture.com.
Rogers Communications is buying the remaining stake in Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment for $4.35 billion. The communications giant says it's signed a deal to buy the remaining 25% of MLSE from Kilmer Sports. MLSE owns the Toronto Maple Leafs hockey team, Toronto Raptors basketball team, Toronto FC soccer team, and the Toronto Argos football team. Rogers Chief Executive Tony Staffieri called it a defining moment for the company. Last year, Rogers closed a separate $4.7 billion deal with rival BCE to buy its 37.5% stake in the powerful sports and entertainment conglomerate. The federal government is promising to simplify procurement processes to make it easier for small and medium-sized businesses to land federal contracts. Procurement Minister Joel Lightbound was in Toronto and announced plans to fix the clunky mechanisms that have made it difficult for small businesses to win federal work.
With new measures that I'm proud to announce under the Small Business Procurement Program. This is about changing the default, making it easier for small businesses to actually show up, compete, and win. Requirements from there on should be clear, proportional, and focused on what matters. Second, we're modernizing the experience with better digital tools, including our chatbot Procura, so that businesses are not stuck trying to interpret government language to find an opportunity or understand how to apply. And third, we're standardizing procurement documents across government. Because every time the format changes, every time the rules shift slightly, it's time taken away from businesses that should be building, hiring, and growing.
Last month, the federal government lowered the threshold for its Buy Canadian policy to a minimum contract value of $5 million from $25 million, expanding the number of federal tenders and prioritizing domestic businesses and materials. And with that, here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX was down 62 to 35,212. The Dow was up 155 to 53,055. The S&P 500 was up 54 to 7,537, and the Nasdaq was up 288 to 26,121. West Texas Intermediate oil was down 14 cents to 68.62 US per barrel. Natural gas was up a cent to 3.25 US. Gold was down 4.96 to 41.6529 US an ounce, and silver was down 35 cents to 62.04 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $7.97 per bushel, barley is at $6.42, canola is at $17.12, and corn is at $7.54 per bushel. Live cattle August contract was down 12 cents to $2.39.10. Feeder cattle August contract was down 12 cents to $3.60.50. Lean hogs were down 50 cents to $93.35, and the Canadian dollar was down slightly over the past 24 hours and currently sits at 70.40 US.
Recapping one of today's top stories, Ontario Premier Doug Ford and Alberta Premier Danielle Smith have unveiled a route for a proposed west-east oil pipeline. In an announcement at the Calgary Stampede, the leaders say it would stretch 3,300 kilometers from Hardisty, Alberta to refineries in Sarnia, Ontario, without crossing the U.S. border. The proposed pipeline stems from an agreement Ford and Smith made at last year's Stampede to study an energy corridor connecting the two provinces. In Alberta, prices continue to soar for groceries, fuel, and homes. One is left to wonder if there are any solutions. Coming up after the break, I will be joined by Rob Miyashiro, Alberta NDP MLA for Lethbridge West, who has some thoughts on how the NDP would deal with the province's affordability issues. Stay with us to hear more. Also, when you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca, or you can visit our website or YouTube channel anytime to check out more of our content and our poll questions.